Welcome to Femin Furious, where feminism has actually left our body once we entered the hockey house at Briar U. If you're new here, hello. Love to have you. If you have listened to the coverage, however, of the book, you know that I am very willing to critique Garrett Graham as a fictional boyfriend, and yet the show does a great job of making him and every other character so complex without losing any of the integrity of the characters or the spirit of the book. If there is one thing that 2026 has proven, it's that we just want really good book to screen adaptations. And it seems like Prime Video is gunning to be the queen for all of the BookTok girlies. I'm not mad about it, especially the way after this show has completely turned me into a Garrett Graham girly. So on this episode of Femin Furious, we will be diving into episodes 1 and 2 of the new off-campus series right after this. This episode is brought to you by Creative Alchemy. You know that creative project you've been thinking about? The podcast idea sitting in your notes app? The book you swear you're going to write someday? The brand, concept, or passion project that is just a little too big for you to handle alone? That is exactly what Creative Alchemy is for. Creative Alchemy is a creative consulting space that works one-to-one with storytellers, creatives, entrepreneurs, and multi-hyphenates to turn ideas into actual, tangible projects. If you have been dreaming about launching a podcast, writing a book, building a creative brand, or finally just bringing an idea to life, Creative Alchemy helps you move from inspiration to momentum. Using a blend of creative strategy, storytelling, astrology, hypnosis, and subconscious tools, Creative Alchemy helps you uncover your voice, move through blockages, and build projects that actually feel aligned and sustainable for your energy. To learn more, head to the show notes and book your free consultation today. Right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to Femin Furious. I am your host, Julia Rose Portela, and I am so excited to be diving into the series. I'm not going to lie. I originally said I was going to cover episodes 1 through 4. I recorded like a megalith of an episode on Thursday to release for Friday, and it turned out to be over 2 hours. So I've decided to go 2 episodes at a time so that we can make our way through the binge drop pretty quickly without having to cut corners on a lot of the really rich stuff that happens throughout the entirety of this series, especially once we get to the later half of the season. So if you're not there yet, that's fine. We're only covering episodes 1 and 2 today. But there's so much in here and a lot that differs from the book and a lot that actually crosses over with other books in the series and even like the series after this, the next series that comes after the off-campus series. So I'm really excited to dive in. I've just rewatched episode 1 and 2. I literally just grabbed my microphone and we're just going for it right now. We're kind of raw dogging based off of the notes because there's so much in here. I am fangirling so hard, and I'm not going to lie, if you're somebody who follows the show and you're listening to my Euphoria coverage, it feels so good to just be so wrapped up in something that is bringing me so much joy. The book, The Deal, is not actually a book that I'm gaga over. I am a Dean girly. Okay, so I am also thriving because there's a lot of really good Dean in this season. I'm just having fun with the series. I think that they're doing a really good job. I can see where they're going. I can see the differences. I think the differences make sense. I think it adds nuance and depth to these characters because even though Off Campus is a series and these other characters pop up in the books, each one is a standalone romance. And so there's not tons of emphasis on the other characters, even when they're involved. This makes more sense as a TV adaptation for there to be much more overlap and for us to have more of a focus and sort of many subplots that we can be following because it's a show with such a large cast. So I'm just having fun. I think this is really good. I'm really enjoying it. I hope you guys are enjoying it too. It feels so good to just be rooted in like the fangirl of it all, to be online and seeing people posting about it and seeing people excited about it. This is like what peak girlhood is. And it makes me feel so good when we can catch these moments together as they're unfolding, as they're happening, instead of being stuck in like this euphoria negativity spin. I'm sorry, but it's just like, it feels good to be rooted in some like feminine joy. I really love it. So I'm sorry that this episode is like a day late and $1 short as far as timing goes, but I really wanted to revamp it and make sure that we are able to get into all of the juiciness of each and every episode and not gloss over anything. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. We're starting with episode 1, which is titled The Deal. It is written by Louisa Levy and it is directed by Silvertree. The episode opens with the split screen Dancing with Myself. Peak romance is so back. What do you mean we have Hannah and Garrett dancing alone, but also together? The show does take on this visual style throughout the entirety of the season. Not to jump too much ahead here, but I love it. I love how in sync they are. I love how many times we get a shot that's like split focus and we're seeing how they're complementing each other, how they're like working together even when they're not together, even when they're not in a relationship. Even though these two people are completely isolated, doing their own thing, Hannah's mopping, Garrett is skating, they are performing. Hannah is singing, she's dancing, she's singing into her fake mop microphone. Garrett is doing his thing on the ice, and they're hoping in their own ways that somebody will just notice them. For Hannah, that's Justin. For Garrett, it's his dad. But still, there's this harmony that they have, seeing them work together, even though they're doing their own thing. It's chef's kiss. It's great. Another thing that I really love about the series is that this entire opening has no words, just the music. This series trusts its audience to be engaged and to not be scrolling on their phone while watching. There is so much subtlety and nuance that is happening outside of the dialogue. And if you're not actively paying attention, you are going to miss a lot of the emotional heartbeat of the show. One of those moments happens early on, again, before we even get any words, before there's even been dialogue, before Garrett Graham even opens his goddamn fucking mouth, okay, with his cocky little attitude. There's this tiny moment. It's so brief that Garrett takes off his jersey. He looks at the back of the jersey, which says Graham on it, and his face contorts into like 100,000 different words. Belmont is so good at facial acting. Multiple times throughout the series, as I was watching the first go around, I paused and was like, what is happening to me right now? He is so insanely good because without even having any words, you can understand that this character, Garrett Graham, is conflicted about whether it's hockey, whether it's the Graham of it all. For us that have read the books, fine, sure, we understand a little bit more what's going on here. And by the end of episode 2, if you're listening to this, you understand that he has some sort of conflict about his dad and his dad's relationship to hockey. But this facial acting is so brilliant. We are introduced to his emotional arc throughout any words, and that's how Garrett is going to play out throughout this entire series. He's not somebody who's reaching for a ton of words. He's very controlled. He's very obsessed with self-control. And for him to just have this visceral, emotional, raw reaction to the Graham of it all on the back of his jersey is his arc. It's exactly what he's about to go through over the next 8 episodes, and I love it. I love what they did here. I also love that the show is designed for the fucking female gaze. We get a lingering shot of Garrett in his gray boxers. They knew what they were doing. They were like, we're just going to throw you all the bone. We're just going to do it for you. And then, because heated rivalry has literally altered my fucking brain chemistry, what do you mean that when he turned around in the shower and he makes direct eye contact with Hannah, he didn't immediately start masturbating? I don't know what to do with myself post heated rivalry. I was gagged. I was like, did we just see boy butt within like the first 5 minutes of the show? Like, we haven't even gotten any dialogue yet, and we've gotten boy butt. 2026 is the best year ever. Garrett Graham was built in a lab for women. The way that Hannah completely ogles him and checks him out, and then we, the camera, check him out, we get to linger in this moment with her. And what's even better about it is that Garrett likes to be looked at. He's not shy. He's not mad that Hannah is checking him out. He's just like, can I help you? What do you need help with? This is so normal to him. He's like, women love to look at me and I love to be looked at. I thought this was so great. We don't even have much dialogue and we have so much context about these characters before we've even really dove into who they are, what they're about, what their traumas are, how they're going to help each other, what their objectives are. We get so much without them having to say that. It's brilliant. This is really, really good writing. This is really good directing. I just thought this was phenomenal. Then I love my boy Dexter. Let me tell you something about Dexter. Dexter is a girl's girl. And what we will find throughout the show is that the girls and the gays, they've got each other on lockdown. They are showing us what real, true, solid, female-based friendship or queer-friendly friendship looks like. I am here for it. I love Dexter. I love that he calls Justin a manic pixie dream boy, especially because manic pixie dream girl is an archetype in like typically male-centered stories where there is some sort of woman or girl, depending on the story, and she's usually really eccentric and very whimsical, and she's usually uninhibited and perceived as like somewhat crazy depending on the lens in which it's put through. I tend to dislike this archetype because it usually frames women in a way that's sort of antagonistic to men, though it depends on the story. It does depend on the story. Like Ramona Flowers, for example, in my favorite movie, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, she is considered like a manic pixie dream girl in that movie. And I think that that's an example of when it can be done really, really well. So I love that our gay bestie, Dexter, is taking this sort of like meh commentary on women and just flipping it on to Justin, who just from the visual of him looks like the worst guy you ever met. And I can say that as somebody who went to art school. I'm a little triggered by Justin. Meanwhile, Hannah is in orchestra. She plays the clarinet instead of being a singer, which she is in the book. Even though we do see her sing and we know that she can perform, this comes up multiple times over the first 2 episodes, but I think it's actually a smart adaptation choice. It makes her artistry feel a lot more internal and a lot more specific to that internalization. She's not trying to be a star. She's not trying to be somebody that catches attention by performing, and that makes more sense for the emotional journey that she's about to go on this season. Then we get to enter the hockey house. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I love them. The banter in this house is perfect. This is like exactly how I envisioned it in my mind, and to see it play out on screen is so joyful to me. This is exactly how it felt in my head. This isn't how I pictured their house either. And I guess because Dean and Garrett both have money, it would make sense that the house would be like more done up. But it's just so interesting how like your internal landscape and how you picture these things differs. I can't describe the way that I envision their house on the outside, only to say that like the way that I envision it is almost like a complex, even though I know that it's not. And when you walk into their house in my mind's eye, just follow me for this journey right now. When you walk into their house in my mind's eye, I've always envisioned like the like you walk into the door, you make a left, the kitchen is on the right, and when you walk in, you're looking straight ahead at the living room where they're always playing video games, and then there is a staircase to the left, and that goes to the upstairs of the house. Was so cool to see because it was kind of similar to that. It was like you walk into their house and the staircase would be right in front of you, but the kitchen and the living room are sort of like this open concept, which is how I always envisioned it. Also funny, when I think about the hockey house, I think about Garrett and Dean's room being upstairs, but I think about Logan and Tucker's room being downstairs behind the kitchen, like a hallway behind the kitchen this way. So I'm not saying that that's how it's ever described in the books, because I don't know if it is or it isn't, but that's just how it's like pictured in my mind. This was much nicer, but it makes sense because Dean and Garrett would both have money, right? But this is exactly what I pictured as far as like their dynamic being. And this is why sports romance adaptations are going to be critical. You heard it here first. This is my hot girl hot take right now. They are going to be critical in the way that media is shaped moving forward, because when you have a space that is canonically feminine and queer like BookTok, you have a misunderstanding of what the content actually is. So, and I'm not trying to say that reading is canonically feminine. I'm trying to say that the idea or like the social concept of BookTok is a feminine space. We are talking about books that are targeted towards a feminine and queer audience. The thing is, they've been getting promoted as smut. And I've noticed even a little bit to my chagrin that even people on the press tour have been calling this smut. And I would say there's smut in the book, but I would not say it's a smut book. It's a sports romance. And so there's this like diminishing of what these stories are by trying to put the concept of smut as like a brick wall between the story and men, when men TM have so much to learn from these stories. This show emphasizes that male friendships matter. The relationship between these boys and the chemistry that they display just in the first scene that we get them, they feel so lived in. Their chemistry is so chaotic and so affectionate and so organic. Having men in the media portrayed as good, loving, supportive friends is really what men TM need right now. So then we get another scene where Garrett and Hannah are working in tandem. Hannah goes to work on her song. Garrett goes to have sex with Kendall. Hannah goes to put her book bag on the desk. And like Garrett goes to put Kendall on the desk. And the way that they just keep intercutting these scenes, I really love it. It just shows you how, again, in sync they are, even though they're not together yet, even though they don't even have a relationship yet. I love that Kendall and Garrett have the getting to know you one-on-one conversation amidst Garrett screening a call from his dad. Kendall calls Garrett out for having no life outside of hockey. She says she wants to be his girlfriend, and Garrett is like flummoxed by this. He's like, why? He's like, what's my major? How do I like my coffee? What's my mom's name? And then to his benefit, because he's being a little curt here, he's like, I don't know the stuff about you either. Not sure why you would all of a sudden want to take this to being in a relationship. We've clearly never had a vulnerable or intimate moment together other than having sex. Garrett's under a lot of pressure. You can tell just from this conversation, not just from being captain, but from the pressure that he feels already having been drafted to the Bruins and the crushing weight of the Phil Graham of it all sitting on his shoulders. Then we have the sportscasters kind of coming in to back this all up. They call him a once-in-a-generation player. Do you know what that must do to your psyche, especially when your father was a once-in-a-generation player? That is an insane amount of responsibility for a young man to hold. Anybody. Young woman too, by the way, if it was reversed positions. But he's 20. At least he's 20 in the books. So I just feel bad for him. I don't think the way that he responds to Kendall is necessarily appropriate, but I can see the weight of everything on his shoulders, and the idea of adding the wrong quote unquote girl into that mix is more pressure. Then we have the working out scene where feminism has completely evaporated and left my body. What do you mean? They had this entire sequence of the boys working out, sweat dripping down their bodies. They're giving us all these different camera angles. We're under Dean watching him lift and lower himself up and down. I was sweating myself watching this sequence. But I love that they balance that sort of like hyper masculinity with this sort of tender vulnerability that comes with the four of them having a conversation about whether or not Kendall and Garrett were dating, and the fact that they put it to a house vote. They respect each other's decisions. We need more men having conversations like this. Maybe we would be in a different place societally if they were able to open up and have conversations about the way that they were treating and respecting and interacting and dating women. Follow that up with the fact that there is a Logan Graham heart-to-heart that happens right after this. Garrett is letting Logan in the best way that he can here. He says his father's more than a dick. And then he basically just says that he is his father. He's a mini fucking Phil Graham. And for somebody like Garrett, who is putting an emphasis on the fact that his father is somebody that he does not like, it's a deeper than dislike. Clearly, there is contention here. The way that it's radiating off of his body. And the way that Logan responds to this, again, it's just a facial look. So if you're not really paying attention, you're not going to catch this. But he gives him an opening for Garrett to go a little bit deeper. And Garrett kind of closes off, and you can see Logan like accept this and also be kind of hurt that like once again he's opened the door clearly for Garrett to have a conversation with him and go deeper with him, and that Garrett is somebody who is so obsessed with control that he can't let himself go there with Logan. But again, that's really setting up Garrett's emotional arc. And so I love that this relationship with Logan is both supportive and also a little complicated right out of the gate. Logan wants this deeper relationship with him, even if he does feel clearly a little bit jealous of him. Logan is trying to give Garrett advice the best that he can with the zero information that he has. So they're setting up Logan to be a really good mirror to Garrett as somebody who is incredibly emotionally intelligent and not afraid to lean into it. That's a part of his gifting. So in the book, there is a scene where Hannah gets the absolute ick from Justin after he's somewhat rude to the server at the coffee bar. And the quote in the book says, "He didn't thank the girl at the counter when she handed him his coffee. I don't know why that bothers me, but it does." This whole interaction where Hannah is at Malone, she's working, she's awkward, she quotes one of my favorite lines from Dirty Dancing, which is, "I carried the watermelon." And he is kind of just like, "Okay, I'm in a rush. Can I have my stuff?" It's giving the same vibe. So I feel like that's why they did that, to show that vein of who Justin is, somebody who's not considerate, somebody who's not that thoughtful, is still in there for him. Like, I'm sorry, Justin, but just because you're a moody artist boy who wears rings and a leather jacket and probably smells like clove cigarettes, it doesn't give you the right to be rude to my baby Hannah. That's my girl. So we have Garrett starting his persistency tour for getting Hannah to tutor him. Garrett, aka the charming book boyfriend, tells her that her references are dated, that she's way too available, and then he still doesn't ask for her name. So the way that he has an expectation for women to fawn all over him and the way that he expects Hannah to be like other women is annoying. And I think that's what makes him so taken off guard when he says something about being able to play hockey and she comes back with, "What, because you get off on beating people up?" And his face just absolutely drops and falls. This show is so smart about showing us in these small ways, even though this is a pretty big line, a pretty noticeable line, Garrett's fear of his masculinity inheritance from his father. His greatest fear is becoming just like Phil Graham. So the fact that Hannah points out to Garrett that this is a conventionally violent sport, and then to emphasize that by saying that fights are used strategically in the sport to promote morale when they're losing, it clicks something in place for him in this moment, I think, about the way that hockey might actually be filtering into his life or feeding something in him that is connected to Phil Graham. And of course, this gets emphasized when we see Phil at the hockey house and he immediately says to Dean, the first thing that we ever get out of Phil Graham's mouth is, "Great hit on McManus last week. Bet that kid felt it in his bones." Something very violent that he notices about Dean's defensive play and that he feels the need to point out, and the fact that that's his first line in the show. We see all the boys interact with him before Garrett, and clearly they love him or respect him. And this slightly frustrates me because the way that they set these boys up to have this deep, vulnerable, intimate friendship between the four of them, and it's so obvious that Garrett has more than just a normal parent-child tension with Phil. At the very least, I wish that Logan is somebody who would pick up on it and press on it a little bit more. He tries in the beginning, but then he says to him, like, "Hey, he's still your dad though." And when they pull up to the house right now, he's like, "Just try. He's trying, just try." But he doesn't even really understand what it's about. And instead of trusting his friend and being like, "Listen, that's not really Garrett. That's not Garrett's MO in life, is to rage on people this way or to feel this way about people," would make me think that maybe Logan is somebody who would be able to read underneath the surface a little bit, but he doesn't. And that's not what happens here. So this tiny conversation that Phil and Garrett have throws Garrett so far off of his emotional orbit that he has a full-blown mantrum after this. And we get subtext here through the sports commentary again. We get a comment that Phil's Graham physicality was brutal and that he was always on a warpath. So we are learning a lot about Phil just from this short, brief moment of the sportscasters talking about the way that he engaged with hockey. Again, this very aggressive and violent sport. I think the show is doing a really good job at connecting sports aggression and domestic violence trauma in Garrett's mind. We're getting all of these scenes from Garrett's childhood with a clearly physically abusive Phil Graham interwoven into memories of young Garrett punching walls and punching pillows, and then present Garrett getting a penalty for boarding a guy from Eastwood. We then have the Eastwood guy asking Garrett at the face-off if he's making daddy proud, and there's a beautiful camera shot that just focuses in on Phil Graham's face and sort of like blurs Garrett out as he's asking that. And I just thought that that was great too, like how much Phil Graham is influencing Garrett's game. Now, the first time around, I was kind of like, whoa, this Garrett Graham is angry. But I think I actually like the change to heighten Garrett's relationship to anger. And I think it's actually a really smart change. It brings his character on a much deeper emotional arc because in the book, Garrett, who is so bad at philosophical theory, goes on his own journey of answering the philosophical question of whether or not he's like his dad. In the show, it's much more visceral. Clearly, Garrett is emotionally repressed. And clearly, he is very angry. And unlike the books, he's an emotional player. We don't see a side like this of Garrett in the books. Maybe we see a player who's a little impulsive or a man who's a little impulsive, but we don't really see anger coming from Garrett. Not like the way that we see it in the version of the show. And all of this, the way that he's playing, the way that he freaks out in the locker room, all of that is from like a minute-long conversation that he has with his dad. That's how bad of a mental state that put him in. So it just goes to show that the patriarchy fails men too. Garrett not having a loving father is a testament to his own inability to regulate his emotions. And it's impacting him where it matters the most. His profession, his career, he's been drafted by the Bruins, and now him having the pressure of them watching all of his games because he's been granted captain. This is just proving that like he's an emotional player. We then get our first glimpse of Delaney, who is Hannah's attacker, and she starts to dissociate. She starts to panic. She goes into her own trauma response here. She goes into flight. So Garrett is in fight mode. She is in flight mode. She finds herself in the green room and she starts performing The Bitch Is Back by Elton John. Perfect song. Absolutely love it. Unlike Garrett, she knows that music will bring her into an emotionally regulated state. So she picks a fun song to lose herself in and to regain control of her emotions. And of course, Garrett, in his mini mantram, hears her and goes over and watches her. And you can see him visibly start to calm down. His little smile while he's watching her. Shut the fuck up. This is a man who is down bad already and he doesn't even know her name yet. He calls her Mona. He has no idea who she is. But this moment is so critical because before he even really knows her, this moment of watching her and seeing her allows him to recenter himself, and he goes to the face-off in the third period. He thinks about her, he smiles on the ice, and then he wins the face-off. And then we kind of cut to the end of the game, which is the end of that period, where we see that when Garrett Graham is centered, when he is on his game, when he is somebody who is emotionally regulated, that gives them a 6-2 advantage. And they were down 2 when they came into this, which means that not only did they shut them out for an entire period, but they scored 6 goals in one period. That is literally insane. That's how good he is. That's the once in a generation type of player. And that's the kind of influence that Hannah already has over him. Meanwhile, Hannah is just being pop girly number 1. She's giving herself a boa. She's dancing. She's singing into her fake microphone. She's giving a mirror performance. She is relatable. She is a girl's girl. We love her for it. And the fact that she's just doing something that is so rooted in like feminine joy and like feminine culture, and the fact that Garrett is so enamored with it and pleased by it and tickled by it and centered by it is so amazing. I love this so much. We then see Hannah, who is fangirling over Justin. She makes a playlist with Justin's music on it and she titles it Crushing. It's private, but still, I had secondhand embarrassment while I was watching this because you could never catch me doing this for a man. Never. Maybe Dean. But like, that's about it. She's doing all of that while she's watching Dirty Dancing, which is clearly her comfort movie. But also think about like what Dirty Dancing is. It's a movie where these two characters in Johnny and Baby liberate each other. That Johnny teaches Baby to stop being so stiff and to be free. And that she teaches Johnny that he's lovable. So I think even that being a part of what we're echoing in this like metatextual way is really great. It's only when Allie then convinces Hannah to go to the block party because Justin will be there that Hannah decides to go out, because Allie is Girls number 1. I'm gonna give a gentle spoiler from the books. So if you haven't read the books and you didn't watch past episodes 1 or 2, I just want you to skip ahead for like 30 seconds or a minute. Okay, so Hannah hasn't told Allie that she's been sexually assaulted, but has clearly fed Allie the lie that she gives to Garrett in the book, which is that this is something that happened to her friend. Either way, I love that Allie is an ally. She defends Hannah. She says that they're not going to force her to drink in public, which they don't. She's like, we're just going to force you to go talk to Justin Cole, baby, which I agree with. I think that is her being a good friend. Push Hannah a little bit out of her comfort zone. We also get the start of the tension between Garrett and Logan over Hannah. So Logan knows who Hannah is, and he is kind of surprised that Garrett's never noticed her before. He's like, she's served us like a bajillion times when we've gone to Ballone's. How could you not have noticed her? And not only has he noticed her, but he knows her name. He tells Garrett, like, yeah, her name is Hannah. And that's when Garrett's able to go through her Instagram and find her handle and start to do a little bit of internet stalking, because what is yearning in a modern day and age, if not for going down a rabbit hole on Instagram? And Logan clocks this. Logan clocks that Garrett is sucked into the Instagram rabbit hole. He's not really paying attention. Logan comes over and he's like, hey, if you lift your head up 3 inches, there's a party going around. Then when they're taking shots all together, Garrett's scrolling. He's not present with his friends at all. He is so lost in the sauce with his growing feelings and infatuation towards Hannah. Shortly after this, as Garrett's going through his first little Instagram deep dive, shortly after that, we've got Dean making direct eye contact with Allie while he's making out with somebody else, and then he calls her princess. Once again, I'm just going to say that the show understands its audience. Now, God forbid my girl Hannah knows a moment of fucking peace, because of course she would work up the courage to go and talk to Justin only to have somebody spill a drink on her. And of course, because this needs to be my absolute nightmare fuel, she's wearing a white t-shirt. This is such a teenage boy fantasy, and it's only when she has a wet t-shirt that Justin takes notice of her for more than just a quick second. And even though he does ask her, are you okay? He doesn't offer her his jacket. He doesn't do anything in this moment to make her feel better, even though this is incredibly embarrassing for women. Men know this, or at least they should. However, Garrett Graham comes to the rescue with a Wellesley and a babe, you always forget your jacket. I'm always telling you to put it on. And then he gives her his jacket and puts his arm over her. I'm turning into a Garrett girly. I'm turning into a Garrett girly. What is this? I don't understand the way that Belmont is playing him. I am so in love. It physically hurts my body. They have such an emotionally charged conversation, and for the first time this episode, despite his many openings to do so, we actually see Garrett getting vulnerable. He compliments Hannah. He admits that he's not sure if he loves hockey, especially in the wake of the way that Hannah clearly loves music. He admits that he only plays hockey to impress his dad, and that nothing actually does impress his dad. So what is he doing it for? And then when she asks him about his mom, he says that she's dead. So we're getting a little bit of a lore dump on Garrett, a little bit of an exposition dump. And then we get to the heart of why Garrett is actually so lovable. He says, look, I don't believe in favors or shortcuts. I don't want to pass this class because somebody handed me the grade. I want to earn it. Garrett is someone who, despite his misogyny in the books, has a lot of integrity, and I think that this whole scene is rooting us into the heart of Garrett Graham, the book boyfriend. Somebody with integrity, somebody who wants to work hard. Book Garrett, though not show Garrett, works construction over the summers because he doesn't want to owe his dad a single thing. That's an important part of Garrett's character, an important part of who Garrett is. A lot of book Garrett does things in spite of his father. The show is a little bit different, but I think that that's the distinction that Garrett is getting to, and I'm hoping that as we get into season 2, we'll see some more of that distinction, even though Hannah and Garrett probably won't be a focus anymore once we're getting into the second season. Then we have the cover of Dancing with Myself playing in the background while Hannah says that she's not Garrett's girl. And then he quotes Dirty Dancing back to her. And thus a deal is struck with an amazing facial read from Garrett. The relief and the happiness that cross over his face, and maybe even a few other emotions that I can't read, as she whispers in his ear that they have a deal. He is down for her. He's so down bad for her. He wants to get to know her. And this is like an excuse and a win for him. Not only does he get to know her, but he's also going to get to study and pass this test. It's like a win-win for Garrett. I just really loved the way that this all unfolded, and the first episode had me kicking my feet and loving it so much, and I can't wait to dive into the second episode with you right now, which was called The Practice. It is written by Louisa Levy and Nick Bragg, and it is directed again by Silvertree. We open with Garrett and Hannah trying to establish fake dating ground rules while they are taking selfies together, like they are already going to be soft launching this on some sort of Instagram dump. Hannah immediately lays down the ground rule that they can hold hands, but they can't kiss. And Garrett's like, if we're gonna be fake dating, there needs to be real kissing. The way that this man acts like kissing Hannah is a contractual obligation for their fake relationship instead of his own personal dream is making me weak in the knees. He is lovesick already. We love a man down bad. We then get introduced to Fifth Line, which is a fun adaptation choice. Fifth Line being the Briar gossip account, and it's run by Jules, who's Logan's non-binary sibling. This I thought was great. I thought it made the whole group dynamic feel fuller and messier and infinitely more entertaining. Do I believe that Jules and Logan could actually be even remotely related? No. But conceptually, I like Jules as a character. The fact that they refuse to post fake gossip means that Garrett and Hannah can't just fake date. They have to fake date in a way that is convincing enough to pass a campus-wide vibe check, according to Jules. Garrett. We then have Hannah showing up for the first tutoring session. Logan opens the door. Garrett descends the stairs like a Greek god summoned by my female yearning and makes a joke. He's like, being shirtless was for Jules's benefit to, raise the stakes of this fake relationship. We then pass a very open door with a very almost naked Dean, and the exhibitionist and voyeur in me honors the exhibitionist and definitely probably also voyeur in Dean. This is why I'm a Dean girly. Okay, let's talk about puck bunnies. I love this conversation because not only does Garrett tell Hannah that the term is from women by women, but he also reassures her that no one would consider her one. And so this whole scene was sort of derogatory in a way. Puck bunnies, for those that are unfamiliar, are girls who have sexual relationships with the hockey players, similar to the way that you would call a girl who follows a band a groupie. It's definitely designed to be a bit of a slur. It's definitely designed to be a bit derogatory. I definitely feel weird when I'm reading a hockey romance and they mention puck bunnies. I always get a ick feeling about it. So Garrett kind of defending calling women this by saying that other women call themselves this, I guess is like when women call women slut or bitch, except for the fact that those terms can be used differently. They can either be complimentary or derogatory depending on the context and the tone in which you use it. It's also interesting that there is some sort of social understanding that the term puck bunny is not a positive term because Hannah immediately is like, well, are people going to think that I'm one? And the way that he kind of looks her up and down as if she does not visually fit into the mold of what a puck bunny is. And then he's like, no, people would never think you're a puck bunny. I wanted to punch him in the face right here. This is where I'm like, okay, they still made him a little misogynistic. Okay, they still made him a little chauvinistic, despite the fact that he's much better. I said it throughout the entirety of our book coverage. I was like, there is no way that they are going to make Garrett in the show this misogynistic because people will not like him. But the fact that they didn't eradicate these pieces of him that are egotistical and cocky and a little misogynistic, I think it fits for a 20-year-old student athlete. So I like that they have this in here, that they didn't totally get rid of that, but that they added so much more to his character to flush him out as far as like who he is as a human beyond this. And one of those things is that he is actually prepared. He's genuinely prepared to study with Hannah. He's organized, he's focused, he's asking thoughtful questions. He shows her that he knows the material and like basically proves that he's not here to waste Hannah's time. I love that he puts his money where his mouth is. When he said to her that he wants to earn his grade, he meant it. And he's showing her here through his actions. They align with his words. And that is a great foundation for the story that is unfolding for Hannah and Garrett. On the other hand, has this man ever heard of Do Not Disturb? His phone is going absolutely feral with notifications, and it would also drive me insane if I was Hannah. I don't blame her when she steals his phone and she texts, "This is Garrett's tutor. Please leave him alone. He'll fuck you later." And the way that this man, Garrett Graham, is like, damn, now I've got to fuck her later. And the way that Hannah goes, only if you believe in obligations. I had to pause my TV after that one. I had to take a break. I was like, I need to take a break from this. I need to go get a snack and regroup and get back to this because I felt my soul leave my body when that happened. Meanwhile, Allie continues to be a human embodiment of sassy girl who deserves fireworks. And Sean is a man who thinks that salt is spicy. Allie is trying to zhuzh up their sex life, their relationship. And so she has a Kama Sutra calendar that they are flipping through that she's into all of these different poses and Sean is like vetoing all of them. I thought this scene was so funny and so painful and so triggering. As somebody who sees a lot of myself in Allie, I always have, she's so clearly craving passion and excitement and deeper intimacy while Sean reacts like she asked him to storm Normandy. Like, there's no match of energy at all. And this is what I love about the Allie and Sean storyline. Women are constantly expected to package their emotional and sexual needs in ways that protect male egos. And that's what's happening here. Allie is clearly a woman who is zesty and full of life, and she is with a wet mop of a man who, instead of being inspired to give more than an iota of a fuck about their relationship and their sex life, just wants Allie to contort herself and be less. And ultimately, even though she ends up agreeing to have like missionary sex because it's what Sean likes, as soon as she says fine, he doesn't even attempt to consider to even look at the Kama Sutra calendar anymore. He's happy she gave up. And I think that this is a really good testament to a lot of reasons why relationships fail, because women are very clear about what they want and what they're looking for. Like, psychology will point to the fact that women will tell men over and over again what's not working for them in a relationship and then leave over that thing, and men will be like, never saw it coming, even though women have been direct and upfront about what's not working. And for her, one of the things that's not working is their sex life. And yet he's not even interested. Like, you're 20 years old. You don't want to have crazy wild sex in your 20s? When do you think you're going to do it? In your 30s? When you have kids? When you're in your 40s? I'm not saying you can't do it at those times. Kudos to you. But like, he's a 20-something-year-old man. Why don't you want to have hot, steamy sex with your girlfriend? Anyway, let's go to Hannah's songwriting, or lack thereof, which is connected to her trauma in some way. We see her with a therapist. The therapist is like, just write, Hannah. And clearly she can't. She's having a visceral, emotional reaction in that scene, in that flashback. So even though we received this tidbit of information last episode, we really understand the emotional stakes for Hannah to write this song at this point. Her classmate even says that it's like Hannah is afraid to open up and get underneath the surface of what the song wants to be about. So her and Garrett are two people who are emotionally repressing because of their trauma. Then we have Garrett, who brings Hannah coffee in their philosophy class. This giant hockey golden retriever is already in husband mode, and he does not even know it yet. He puts his arm around her shoulder to try to sell the relationship. Justin's not even paying attention. So Garrett Graham is just out here performing fake boyfriendism for free because he wants to, because he's like, just pretend that you like me, Hannah, because I want you to pretend that you like me because I like you. Is he incapable of filling up a water bottle? Not sure. Not sure why anybody needs an 1,000-ounce hydro flask. Little bit of a red flag, if you're asking me. Little bit of a red flag that he doesn't know her actual coffee order. He's just doing a grand gesture to obviously get at Justin. But she can't drink it because she's lactose intolerant. And I feel like that might be a little bit of a Chekhov's gun. Why are they mentioning that she's got lactose intolerance, if not for that to come up later? Then we have the Maxwell De Laurentiis party announcement. You can inject the scene straight into my bloodstream. I love that we're getting so much Beau so early on. So we get the party announcement, we get the party details. It's happening in Cape Cod. It's dynamic duo costumes. We have Dean telling everyone to be there or be there because there's no other options. This is a perfect line for Dean, who, by the way, is the most extra of all of the boys. So we love this for Dean. We love him in the scene. I love him so much. As a Dean girly, I am thriving throughout this season. Just let me have my moment. Garrett says they're going to be hard launching their fake relationship at the party, and that this is going to be to everyone's benefit because Justin is in Beau's frat, which means that Justin will also be at the party while they hard launch their fake relationship. I also love that Hannah and Garrett rope Allie in on their plan, and that Allie is somebody that they both immediately trust to help them, not just with the costume ideas because she supports women's rights and wrongs, but that she's somebody who can be trusted to know about their fake relationship. She then continues to be girl's girl number one because as Hannah and Garrett are having this conversation about the difference between beautiful and hot, and he tells her, if you've got it, you need to flaunt it. And Hannah says back, don't talk about my it. Not all women want to get dressed up for the male gaze. Pop off, queen. We love that line of thinking. We love that clap back. What's even better for me personally is the fact that Allie then interrupts Garrett and she's like, listen, hockey man, which I thought was so funny, the fact that she called him hockey man. Listen, hockey man, let's get one thing straight. My best friend is right about literally everything always, now until the end of time. That's a girl's girl. We love friendship like this. I love Allie and Hannah's friendship so much. It is so precious to me. I can't wait to see how it evolves over the season. I can't wait to see how it evolves in season 2. I'm so excited to watch their journey. I also thought the boys' pregame interview was hysterical, especially Dean flirting with the interviewer because subtlety has never once entered this man's body, and that's why I love him. But underneath all of that humor, we see Hannah struggling with the flashbacks as she's trying to write while she's waiting for Garrett to be done with practice. And this is genuinely heartbreaking, but the show does a really good job of balancing the humor with the trauma in a way that makes it feel incredibly real to life, like when these moments happen and unfold for people. And then we have this lovely conversation between Coach and Hannah, where Hannah's like, we're not dating, I'm just his tutor. And his coach confides in Hannah that Garrett refuses any academic favors, that he doesn't want help from the dean or from any of his professors because he doesn't want exceptions and he doesn't want shortcuts. He wants to be somebody who earns his success because he never wants to be in the wake of the nepotism that comes from being Garrett Graham's son. He wants to prove that the merit is all his own. Then we have the weight room scene. This is going to live rent-free in my mind for a long time. Specifically the way that Garrett smiles right before they kiss. He wants her so fucking badly, and he's using this whole fake relationship, let's practice scenario to get what he wants, which is for her to kiss him. The kiss is so hot because it's not just the physical attraction that these two clearly have or the chemistry that they have. It is the buildup that's happening underneath it. It is the teasing, the banter, the trust, the emotional intimacy that is starting to sneak up on them as they deepen and develop their friendship and their relationship. Now, as a book girly, I was foaming at the mouth for this scene coming into this season because I really wanted to see the kiss with Dean. I wanted to see it the way that it happens in the books, but Hannah immediately kissing Logan afterwards to sell this bit to Garrett was absolutely genius because Logan is very clearly catching feelings for her, already has been pining after her, and this kiss between him, with consent by the way, makes so much more sense for Logan's growing feelings for her instead of just telling us that he has a crush on her in the books, and it doesn't make any sense and there's really no emotional payoff for it. Not in the first book, which is The Deal, which is Hannah and Garrett's book, but not in the second book either, which is Logan's book. Considering that this is Logan's golden opportunity in the show, though, to kiss Hannah, he kissed her like it was his first day on planet Earth. He doesn't attempt to touch her. He doesn't attempt to deepen the kiss. He literally is just like leaning forward, almost like pecking her. There's not even tongue. He may be able to give us those puppy dog eyes, but he's not selling yearning the way that Garrett is in the show because he completely botches this moment, in my opinion. We now have a reverse scenario of Garrett watching Hannah descend from the staircase, also looking like a fucking goddess. He tells her that she nailed boy hot. This is where feminism once again left my fucking body. We then have Hannah refusing to drink while visibly spiraling, watching girls at this party get handed beers from a keg. This is important. You can feel her PTSD tightening around her in real time. Meanwhile, Garrett comes in and casually reveals to her that he also barely drinks because hockey comes first. So on nights that they have practice, he only lets himself have one drink. On nights that they don't have practice or they win a game, he has 5 max. And while he doesn't fully understand why Hannah doesn't drink yet, you can tell that he's trying to meet her where she's at without pushing, by like giving them some common ground about the way that they both have certain drinking habits at parties. This would be cute and charming if he wasn't completely upstaged by Logan, who immediately understands that Hannah doesn't drink at parties because she doesn't want to be roofied. So he gives Garrett a can of beer and says that closed cans are safer. And that one tiny moment says everything about who Logan is. He understands Hannah's fear without making her explain it or making Garrett try to understand it or comprehend it. It's protective and observant. And the fact that he tells Garrett to then go play the hero, knowing that this is going to win some big points in her book, is also important to his character. He's willing to put Garrett ahead of himself, even though he is crushing on Hannah. And he's also willing to prioritize Hannah and her feeling safe at a party without needing any of the credit for being so tuned into her. So then we have Elle and Sean showing up as JLo and Ben, in case you needed any more convincing that they are in fact the worst couple. And the fact that he doesn't want to dance with her, the fact that he forgets the Dunkin' Donuts cup, like what is wrong with him? Elle is so fucking hot. And he's like, do we really have to dance? Why don't you want to dance with your hot girlfriend? Like, I don't know. I don't understand what's wrong with Sean. Dean, however, clocks Elle right away. And he is a man possessed. And this is exactly why I'm a Dean girly. Then we have Tucker, who is the best wingman ever. He puts JLo on. None of them know her name. Dean is like, Bo, who's that girl? And Bo is like, I don't know her personally, but I think that's JLo, which I thought was such a funny line because they don't know who she is. She wasn't truly invited to this party. She sort of just invites herself via Hannah. She's not on his radar at all. And yet the scene of them dancing together will be seared into my soul. When I die, they will say at the gates of heaven, what was your happiest moment? And I will reflect on this moment right here when Dean fucking worships her on the dance floor. The way that he stares at her, especially when she's like, no touching, you can't touch me, you can't kiss me. And then she just kind of puts on a little bit of a show for her. And he just stands back and is so enamored and enchanted and obsessed with her. Even as she leaves the dance floor and she's replaced by 2 other girls that are dancing on Dean, he's still staring after her. I love Dean so much. I love him. I also love that Garrett then pulls Hannah out of the party. He flops onto the bed. He's like, thank God, I'm so fucking tired. He's just played a game. He's all beat up. He pulls off his shirt, and Hannah is like, holy shit, dude, like, you got beat up. And he's like, yeah, don't even realize it. And this is clearly insinuating that this is normal, that he's so used to being physically beat up this way. And when she's like, do you always get hurt like this? He's like, well, it happened more when I was starting out, which is insinuating that he was getting double the beats because he was getting physically abused by his father. I mean, it's just so fucked up the way that this show is alluding to what has happened to Garrett, especially when he then opens up about Phil in like 3 minutes. And this destroyed me. He tells Hannah that he's been skating since the moment he could walk. Since the moment I could walk, my dad put skates on me. I had to be measured weekly to see that I was growing fast enough. I had to have protein shakes, the weights, missing birthday parties because he wasn't allowed to skip practice. And then the way that he just like closes his eyes and you could see the memory of the whistle just playing over his features, the way that this whistle put the pressure on him, the fear on him, this growing, horrifying realization that hockey is both the thing that he loves and the thing that is consuming his entire identity in order to please his father, and how those two things might not be interchangeable anymore. I love this moment so, so, so much. And then we have music as this connector between the two of them, where they're sending memes back and forth to each other. Again, beautiful scene of them together in a room with the bed separating them, then a split screen separating them, and a close up on Hannah's face and a close up on Garrett's face. And then the way that they come together on the actual bed and they fall asleep together. But right before that, we have Garrett confessing that he was struggling at this game with Eastwood and that he went to go like get a breather, followed Hannah's voice through the tunnels, hearing her sing Elton John, and that he watched her and he's like, I realized that this sounds creepy, but you centered me. He says that she was genuine and she was free. And for somebody like Garrett, who is so wrapped up in his own sense of self-control, this is so important because Hannah is going to be his liberator. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. Okay. Some fangirl footnotes, some honorable mentions that we didn't talk about. Number 1, I love that Hannah wears red in almost every single scene. Let us not forget that book Garrett told Hannah that red is her color. Number 2, Malone's. It's my fictional emotional support bar, and I love that Hannah is working there. Number 3, I love that the boss is named Della to honor the fact that that's obviously where Hannah is working in the books. She works at Della's Diner, which is like the 50s diner. I love the fact that they blended sort of the diner and Malone's into being one thing. That's really great. And then number 4, I love that Garrett has the lines, sometimes people sneak up on you. This is one of the best parts of the book. So I love when they have like little nods to the things that are so special about the books in here. All right, let's crack open the burn book where we will look at the superlatives for this episode. The Bold and Bothered Award. This award is strictly for the femme and the furious. It is the quote or the moment that really relays the most feminine rage. And I think it goes to Hannah when she is talking to Jules and she says, why? Because a guy like him could never be into a girl like me. Not only is she dressed as Elle Woods, quoting Elle Woods, but I think she is genuinely a little offended as to like, why wouldn't Garrett go for a girl like me? Why don't you see what's good about Garrett? You know, she's a little offended that Jules is like, Garrett can be kind of an asshole. And she's like, yeah, but he's also like smart and funny and like can be really kind when he wants to be. Like she sees these good qualities in him and she's ready to bring them out of him and she's ready to be patient with him. And she's also willing to call him out on his bad behavior too. So it's not just that she's making excuses for him because she doesn't. But the fact that Jules can't see that and then also kind of is like, what's going on with you guys? Because I don't see it. I don't see Garrett with a girl like you. I don't understand why you would be into somebody like Garrett. I think this is such a good moment of bold and bothered for her. The Shiro Award. This goes to the baddie who is the most inspiring or the moment that is the most empowering. And I think it goes to Allie, who is listening to Hannah who is listening to a self-deprecating rant from Hannah. And then she comes out and she's like, hey, be nice to my friend Hannah. And I just love that. I love that line. The Femme Fatale Award for the most Smash the Patriarchy moment of the episode, and it has to go to Allie giving Dean the waving finger of the no, like, nope, you can't touch, you can't kiss me, you can just look, I was gagged. Speak Your Truth trophy, I have a few between both episodes. First, we have Hannah asking Dexter, aren't you above stereotypes? We have Dexter saying, babe, I'm trying to be below one of those stereotypes, or maybe behind. We also have the line, if we're going to be fake dating, there needs to be real kissing. We kind of already talked about that. We have her professor, Hannah's professor, who says, I commend your intellectual flexibility, truly, which I thought was a really funny line. And then we have Jules, who during the game before the party is talking about Logan and Garrett playing together, and they're passing the puck back and forth. And she's like, these two are passing it back and forth like chlamydia during welcome week. I thought that was fucking funny. And then honorary heartthrob, okay, because I'm just a girl and I want to talk about the most swoon-worthy moments. And the first is from episode 1, when Garrett says to Hannah, what, only you get to look at things you shouldn't? And then, this is like a culmination of things, but every single secret smile that dawns Garrett Graham's lips as he watches Hannah, pure cinema. All right, that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening to Femme and Furious. If you like this episode, share it out with your friends. Go follow me on Instagram at FemineFuriousPod. I'm going to be dropping my text messages for each episode that I was sending to my girly pops as I was watching the show. So you'll be able to see that over there. I will be back tomorrow talking about Margot's Got Money Troubles, episode 6 and 7. And until then, I don't need your pity. You can take the bed.